How to make the U.S. Navy great again? It is imperative that America's fleet reach 355 ships within the next 10 years. There is, in fact, a path to achieve this goal that is both achievable and affordable. The system has begun to fray and tatter. American leadership wove together the threads of this fabric: international laws, accepted norms, mutual security, and free trade following World War II. Now, after a generation of unchallenged U.S. maritime preeminence, things have changed. American maritime interests have evolved beyond simply protecting freedom of navigation. Resource exploration and securing undersea critical infrastructure have made the maritime domain more important than ever. Threats to those interests have also evolved, and are multiplying rapidly in number and sophistication. The United States faces not one, but two emerging naval powers, Russia and China, challenging its maritime dominance. Unfortunately, the United States has increasingly failed to uphold its maritime interests. The Navy battle fleet is the primary instrument used by the United States to secure and, if necessary, defend them. Yet the fleet size and condition reveal serious shortcomings. On the most basic level, the fleet averaged 740 ships in the post-World War II era but currently stands at only 282 ships. Though our sailors and Marines remain second to none, the condition of the fleet has deteriorated as the need for naval power has far outstripped the supply of available ships. The results of this supply-demand mismatch are longer deployments, 100-hour work weeks, and delayed and cancelled maintenance and training. This long-term downward spiral in combat readiness has contributed to avoidable incidents such as the USS John S. McCain and USS Fitzgerald collisions that recently resulted in the deaths of 17 sailors in the Western Pacific. American maritime interests, threats to those interests and responses to those threats have changed and created a new context in which the United States must rebuild its naval power. The White House, the Pentagon, and Capitol Hill need a renewed appreciation for America's interests at sea and the seriousness of the emerging threats to them. Simply put, the United States must engage in a long-term, aggressive campaign to build a larger and more capable battle fleet in order to deter rising competitors, head off a potential arms race, and prevent a destabilizing of the international environment. It is U.S. law that the Navy achieve its stated minimum force structure requirement of 355 ships. The United States should meet this benchmark within 10 years. Maritime interests are so embedded in our nation's history that policymakers and the public often take them for granted. Even the vastness of the world's oceans has seemingly diminished, given the ease of today's air travel and an internet that can connect far-flung places. Yet it is important to remember the significance of the oceans and inland freshwater Great Lakes for America's economic prosperity. 39% of Americans, nearly 125 million people, live in counties that directly touch oceanic shorelines. 3 million jobs are directly tied to the oceans or Great Lakes, and those jobs contribute $352 billion to the nation's economic output. Nearly 80% of U.S. export trade by tonnage moves over water, and 90% of general cargo moves via container ships. The National Maritime Transportation System carried $1.5 trillion in cargo to and from American ports last year. America's allies and partners also heavily rely on seaborne transportation. About 95% of the globe's total commerce flows over the seas. Protecting freedom of navigation is thus a paramount U.S. interest. This core interest manifested in unimpeded transit in international waters and access to foreign ports for commercial trade has endured since the Republic's founding. In fact, The abridgment of this core interest served as a predicate for both the American independence movement and the subsequent first defense of the new nation during the War of 1812. The United States was, then and today, a commercial trading nation. Although freedom of navigation remains central, our maritime interests have evolved beyond simply securing the seas for commercial transportation. The seas are also at the center of resource exploration that has expanded in scope over time. During the colonial era and into our first century, fishing and whaling were major sources of national income. Since then, technological improvements have opened new doors, allowing the United States to access more of the resources found in the ocean's previously impenetrable depths. Today, energy and mineral resource exploration operations are conducted far off the nation's shores in exclusive economic zones, which represent 3.4 million square nautical miles of ocean space. Drilling and bottom mining rigs now routinely operate thousands of feet below the surface, taking the nation's interests outward and downward with them.
tough day for our Navy family. It's hard to imagine what this crew has had to endure, the challenges they've had to overcome. But I'm extremely proud of their courage and their dedication. We still got an active search and rescue going on for our missing shipmates, so please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And we really like to thank the whole Yokosuka community and also our Japanese partners. They've been tremendous throughout this. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, mission members of the United States Embassy, Panama, family members, crew members of DDG-62 USS Fitzgerald. My name is John Feely, and we are here in Panama at the Panama Canal, and we are here with that mighty battleship behind us to pay tribute to the 7 members of that crew who tragically lost their lives. It is our intention as members of multiple services, multiple government agencies, to render appropriate tribute to those 7 brave sailors who on the night, June 17, 2017, made the ultimate sacrifice in the service of our nation. You've all heard it said before, the price of freedom is not free. We all who wear a uniform or who willingly serve overseas, whether in the United States military or in any other service, we all assume risks. We are saddened when those risks take the lives of our brothers and sisters. So for their crew members, for the ship's company, I am simply going to read the names of those sailors who perished on that night. We wish their families and their crewmates strength to deal with the loss and continued courage to carry out the mission of the USS Fitzgerald once it is repaired in Pascagoula. Javier Alec Martin, 24 years old. He was a personnel specialist, Class 1, from Halethorpe, Maryland. Shingo Alexander Douglas, 25 years old. He was a yeoman, 3rd class, from San Diego, California. Dakota Kyle Rigsby. He was 19 years old. He was a gunner's mate, seaman from Palmyra. Carlos Victor Gansong Sibayan, 23 years old. He was a fire controlman second class from Chula Vista, California. He'd been 3 years on the USS Fitzgerald. Nyok Trong Nguyen, 23 years old. He was a sonar technician, third class, Oakville, Connecticut. Noé Hernandez, 26 years old. He was from the town of West Laco, Texas-Mexico border. He was a gunner's mate, second class. He was originally Guatemalan. Finally, Gary Leo Ream, Jr. He was the old man of the crowd, 37 years old. He was a fire controlman, first class, from El Rio, Ohio, 19-year Navy veteran who's planning to retire. I'm now going to ask members of Panama's firemen to join me as we render fitting tribute to these men who lost their lives.